Welcome to the webinar. You have entered as an organizer and may now speak to any other organizers or panelists on the line. When you are ready to begin the presentation, press the Start Broadcast button on the GoToWebinar control panel to allow all attendees to hear you. This system will notify you once you begin your broadcast. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi there, everybody. Thanks for joining us on today's webinar. My name is Jen Coffey, and I work on our professional services team. I deliver custom dashboards, widgets, and reports for our clients who need a little extra assistance making sense of their data. Today's webinar topic is Dashboards 101, and we'll be explaining how you can leverage our dashboards, and we'll be demonstrating some of the functionality we've built in to make your life a little bit easier. If you have any questions along the way, please do enter them in your GoToWebinar control panel's chat window. We'll do our best to tackle them within the time allowed, but if we don't get a chance to answer any of your questions, we will follow up with you after the webinar. I am going to go ahead and share my screen here, so bear with me one moment. There we go. Okay, so that. All right, so you should now see, this is our docs site. So our docs site actually is where today's webinar will be uploaded and where you'll find a lot of items that we'll be referencing today. The purpose of today's webinar is not actually a deep dive into how to build dashboards or how to create a custom widget or how to perform a number of specific tasks. We have recorded a number of webinars that do actually deep dive into that, and they will absolutely show you how to do all of those things. You can create your own dashboards, you can create custom widgets. Today's more to sort of illustrate the value of ConnectSMART and just show you things that you can do with it so that you know where to get started, you know what to go look for. So we've already documented how to accomplish a lot of these things, but this is more to introduce to you some concepts that maybe you're not aware of within ConnectSMART. So just that brief little intro there about why I'm coming here. And as far as our video recording, so today's webinar will be here. If you go to our docs page, the home page, the upcoming events and webinars, or you can navigate directly to training resources, and you'll see the archive will allow you to search and filter, find today's webinar, or go back and see some of the webinars that we're going to be referencing, like the customer transparency dashboard, some of the new features, creating a custom widget, and the like. I am going to go ahead and jump over to our ConnectSMART SP portal, and I'm going to actually log out. Okay, so when we get started, everyone's going to have a login, and you're going to go to your tenant. This is my demo tenant that I use sometimes. So assuming everybody here has done their Getting Started wizard, they've already hooked up their data to their tools, their ConnectWise or what have you. So then you would have some data queries that we have already built in for you. These things are all going to be in here out of the box. I'm not going to focus too much on the data queries, but the data queries are basically where we're grabbing your data, we're compiling your data to return, say, the count of open tickets, which are then referenced by the widgets that you see on our dashboards. So each of these widgets is using a data query to go and grab data out of your database and then let us know, how many tickets were entered today or what have you. All right, so first I just want to, bear with me just one moment, I've got to move a few screens around. Okay, so our ConnectSMART dashboards, out of the box, just go ahead and load them. Now this dashboard, I have already pointed to the service board that I want to watch. If I load this dashboard template, or if I create a new dashboard from the template, I just want to illustrate that these are going to go ahead and grab pretty much all of your records. So they'll be a little bit slow out of the box until you go ahead and point it to the correct service board. So just want to illustrate that for you right now. So if you come in and you start trying to play with our dashboard templates right out of the box, which I think actually I've got mine pointed there, so I actually left that in there. But when you try to run this with no filters at all in place, you will see it slow down a bit because it is going in and it has to grab all the tickets because it's not just looking at a specific board. So it does take a little bit longer. So just do keep in mind when you use the dashboard templates, the first thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and update some of those basic dashboard settings to make sure that you're not just sort of unnecessarily grabbing way more data than you actually care about. That'll keep things moving a little faster while you're in here playing with your widgets. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to actually bounce back out and start from there, creating a dashboard from a template, and I'm just going to basically take us through to having a finished dashboard here. So to see your templates, you'd actually just go to your dashboard browser. You'd go to Show Templates. You'd see the list of available templates. You can go ahead and edit these templates directly, but I recommend you not do that because we can overwrite them when we make updates. So always create from a template and modify from there. So that's going to go ahead and create this guy, and I will go ahead and access that dashboard to edit it. Now, of course, I accidentally went ahead and put that in. But what you're going to want to do is same thing. These will take with or without the single quotes. So if you have to enter a value, you can leave out the quotes if you'd like, if it's just a single value. But do keep in mind, if you're going to enter more than one, you will need to use the single quotes to have the comma separated values. But if you just have one, it'll take it either way. To be consistent, though, I like to put them in. That way we don't get mixed up later. Now the settings that I'm modifying here, these are settings that can be inherited by each widget. So each widget has its own filters available. So the Open Tickets by Tech right now is inheriting my dashboard filter, which is where I had set my help desk, right? I'm pointing this dashboard just to my help desk. And then my widgets are all set to inherit whatever board I select at the dashboard level. And we can see the inheritance in those filters on each of the widgets, but I will just go ahead and let you know that yes, these are all actually set to inherit. If we wanted to override that, let's say I wanted to see all tickets for all text, doesn't matter what board, I can actually just go ahead and remove my inheritance. And then you'll see a few other columns show up because I'm pulling in additional items that were not on the help desk board. So you'll see that. So if you want to save yourself some mouse clicks, these dashboard settings will make your life a lot easier if the bulk of your widgets are going to be pointed to a specific service board or set of service boards, or if there's a status you need to exclude from most of them. Similarly, if you're looking at a specific set of text, or you want to limit the date range, I say definitely utilize the inheritance feature so that you can just go ahead and update in one fell swoop. So I'll actually show you with the days. Right now, these are all pointed to inherit our days from the dashboard. So I'm going to go ahead and change that to 3 instead of 7. And we will go ahead and see my numbers should all change. And there we go. Now my subtitles all say past 7 days. So that is actually just hard-coded by you. So I do want to go ahead and make sure that I change that to reflect that it's my past 3 days or what have you. Okay, so that actually takes us to where you can actually modify your widgets individually. So I'm going to go ahead and run through some of those options. Your charts are going to have they're going to have a title built in. You can adjust the font size. You can actually flip through different kinds of charts depending on what kind of data you're looking at. So see which ones make the most sense for you. Typically, we're going to have things in what makes the most sense for the data we're presenting. But if you want to flip something to another chart type, you are more than welcome to do so. I'm going to switch mine back for now. Now, this is a text widget, and essentially it's just a box, and it's going to go ahead and return whatever number here as text. These have two titles built in. You can change those. Just do keep in mind that your titles will shrink your value. So if your title is much larger, you're going to see that value is going to shrink down there, and it's going to be a little difficult to see. It's not too bad. The widget's a little big, but if you shrink your widgets, you'll see that it gets very small. So you're going to want to make sure that you're not inadvertently scrunching everything down. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put that back. So we've added a number of features here so that you can customize your appearance of your widgets. So you can actually go ahead and change the font color. If I wanted to put it to, say, red, you can go ahead and change your subtitle. We do let you make it pretty much as ugly as you would like. So you could get very specific if you have a color scheme in mind, or if you just want to leave it as is, you can use the themes. I'll show you the themes when we're back in view mode. But if you want to control individual widgets, make them stand out from the crowd, you can certainly do so. I want to highlight a little lower, though, separate from the color that goes along with the titles. We actually have some value-based color conditions that will control this 25. So if I want to see when, let's say I have more than 20, and I want to go ahead and turn it red. Now let's go hot pink. Okay. So you see it's evaluating. It's just saying if my main value is above 20, go ahead and turn that pink. If I set it to 26, it will. Now it sometimes does want me to go ahead and bounce back out into view mode. There you go. And some of that's just with the caching in your browser. It'll keep displaying what it's already loaded. So if it doesn't flip right away, just switch back out to view mode or go ahead and hit save and then F5 again and you'll be all right. So, oh, well, Gail informs me we have a question.
Okay, we have a question from Brett Bell. Is there a location to grab additional dashboards from the CS site?
We do not have additional dashboards available for sort of self-service loading to go grab. If there's anything in particular that you've seen around that you don't have, definitely let us know. It may need to be migrated over from a different version, or if you've seen something on the doc site from CS4 or somewhere, we can definitely do that. And there's also a number of custom dashboards floating around, or you'll see us, stage a dashboard in a webinar that we'll use. So if you saw something specific somewhere, most of the time we can make that available to you. But some of these are things that we just kind of toss together on the fly to use in a webinar or for a specific demo. I do know that we are talking in the dev team about adding the ability for you to go ahead and grab new content or refresh or add new stuff that's available to you. So stuff that's not already included in your base install, or if you were to add an additional pack or additional sets of widgets. But I don't have an ETA on that yet. But it is definitely something that we are wanting to add for you guys. Okay. All right, so that's pretty much it with the color conditions. You can always set it back to do nothing at all. But a lot of times people will use this to, say, highlight exceptions, things like customer responded tickets or tickets that haven't been responded. If you've got particular statuses that tickets shouldn't really sit in or should never spend much time there, or say high priority tickets, emergency tickets come in, things like that, turn it red, make it, you can also change that background color and make it that much more obvious. So let me just hit save and let it do its thing. Of course, I set it to, if anything, do nothing. Sorry. There you go. So it's not just the font. You can actually change that background color too and highlight it. So I am going to go ahead, though, and skip past our color conditions and jump over to the filter tab. So all the widgets, you'll see some different settings here in the design tab, just depending on the widget type. So charts will have different options than gauges and text widgets and so on. But the filters are going to be pretty standardized across the board. You will see these parameters change depending on what widget you're looking at. So an open tickets count would have things like service board, service type, but something looking at open invoices or something showing agreement profitability is probably not going to include anything like service type. That would include something more relevant like agreement types or customer type, something of that nature. So you will have different filters, and that is important because just because I've got, say, a board name here set to help desk, if I'm not inheriting it or that widget doesn't actually have that as a filter, it doesn't make any difference. So I can set it here, but the only way it's going to matter is if this widget is inheriting what I've set over here. So if and this is all service tickets, but if I had up a sales dashboard or invoicing, something like that, you'd see that, the service boards and things like that don't really factor in and they won't make a difference. Oh, okay, we have another question on the color, so we're gonna go to Gail.
Okay, from Brian Anderson. How did you get different colors on the tickets by priority widget?
Okay. The tickets by priority widget, those are just standard colors associated with the color scheme. So those are actually defaulting to that. So see how it's actually this blue and yellow? In the edit mode, it's a slightly different look. Right now, we cannot control that. I know that is at the top of the list. I've heard that it is coming very, very soon where you'll have much more granular control of the overall color scheme. So there should be a webinar in the very near future that would be talking about those new releases, new features, and the color scheme and theming options. I know that's been something that folks have asked for, and we've definitely made a big effort to get that in there for you. So stand by, and you will have much, much more control. But right now, unfortunately, these are just the defaults. Okay, so of course, if you guys have any more questions, just go ahead and pop them in there and we'll bounce back. But I'm going to go ahead and just tackle some of the other items on the filters. Okay, so we have the ability to go ahead and add additional filters that are not used. So at the widget level, you can go ahead and customize them at a very granular level. You do have the exclude option. So if you're trying to show everything, and just really want to hide a few things, go ahead and take advantage of the exclude instead of accidentally, trying to select all the ones you think you want, and somebody adds a status later and it's not there because you never explicitly selected it. So the exclude option is very great if you want to hide something, or you don't want to see child tickets, or you're trying to ignore resolved tickets that aren't closed. Stuff like that comes in very handy. Your refresh rate defaults. So these, I believe, default to 5 minutes. I can get clarification on that. But you can actually go ahead and change these. So you can make it faster if it's something like, say, you're trying to see new tickets that get created. But if you're doing agreement profitability for last month, that shouldn't change much. So 1 minute is a lot of overhead on your database for no really good reason. So you might as well just go ahead and dial it back to something a little more reasonable. And plus, remember, you can always manually refresh these. You can run them again. So it's not as if you say 8 hours or daily and you're stuck forever. You can always manually refresh them. This is just more to control when you've got a dashboard in view mode and it's refreshing on some sort of recurring schedule. This is that. So if it's something that's not going to change often, I'd go ahead and dial it back. It's going to help you performance-wise. But if it's something that you need to be right in the thick of, then go ahead and speed it up to about a minute. Okay. The Action tab does not factor in a whole lot at the dashboard level, but we do have the option to disable any drill downs that have been added to the widget. This comes in very handy if you're trying to share data with, say, a client or use a public URL, and you want to go ahead and make the value available, right? You've entered 6 tickets today, for example, if you had a client dashboard. So you can show them that they've entered 6 tickets. You may not want them to be able to drill down into those tickets like this. So we may not want them to be able to see all the details of those tickets. So as you see, it brings up a whole list of all those tickets. So that's where that action to disable the drill down would come in. Now, when I talk about a client accessing their dashboard and you want to expose only a little bit of information to them, I'm talking about our public URLs. So our public URLs allow you to set filters on your dashboard. For example, this one's set to point to the help desk. And I can go ahead and create a public URL saying, public help desk only. Copy that to my clipboard. If I go to log in, let me actually just open up another browser entirely where I'm not logged in somewhere. Here we go. All right, so here's Firefox. So you'll see it's going to go ahead and pop open that dashboard, but I don't have any options. I don't have any edit. I don't have anything I can do. All I can do is close things. Now, I didn't disable the drill down, so it is actually still working for me. But there we go. If you try to close out of it, it just takes you back to the login. So you can, if you want to share a dashboard with an engineer, but you don't want them to get their hands on the actual dashboard or the ability to edit it or modify it, you can give them one of those public URLs. Same thing, we did a webinar last week on client transparency dashboards. So that should give you some ideas on how you can leverage the public URL, but just be aware that it is there. The theme right now, I know we just mentioned earlier that there is going to be a lot of changes coming down the pike for your control of the color schemes. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but right now you do have 2 built-in themes. Full screen mode is going to get your dashboard into more of a kiosk kind of view. It's going to go ahead and hide your menu items so you can go to a true full screen mode. If you hit full screen, of course, you'll see there's no buttons to get back to it. So to do that, just go ahead and hit F5. And we have also added a browse mode. So in case you missed that, when I hit browse, take a peek at the top right corner of my widgets, you'll see a little cog pop up so that we can go in and take a look at some stats on that widget. We can see any filters that are in place. This one in this case is inheriting the board name. And then we can actually see the query associated with it along with the values being returned. So pretty nice, handy for troubleshooting. If you have any questions about what's going on behind this, then it's very quick, very easy for you to kind of get a quick feel for what that is. Similarly, when you are in edit mode and you select a widget, you'll see the base widget name referenced here. And when we go into the widget creator, I will show you how to go and pull up those widgets and some of the options you've got there. But a lot of the things that we covered here are going to be exactly the same in the widget creator. So other than the drill down, you're going to see mostly the same stuff. So let me actually pop back out to view mode. And the other option, you've got your view filters. Let's say I'm looking at the help desk right now, but I want to see everything again. Now remember that slows it down quite a bit because I have to go grab everything. But see, there we go. It's going to run down my list here, update my widgets as it goes. But that's for on-the-fly filtering. So if I hit F5, I refresh, it's going to actually revert back to the filters that I've got in place. So that dashboard filter that you set here in the settings is always going to trump anything you set in the view filter. So that view filter, just keep in mind, it's temporary. You can, however, use the view filter for your public URLs. So use the view filter, take that out. Let me point to, let's do implementations board. And this is sample data, so not sure what's going on here. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so we don't have any surveys on this board. That's why you see that drop to null. But I went ahead and I saved that. I'm going to actually do one more URL, and this one is public implementations. Okay, so let's grab that. I'm going to grab a copy of this one as well. And back down here in Firefox, we've got one that is, I believe this one is our implementations. Yep, and this one is the one pointed to the help desk. So you see how those public URLs, I'm not logged in either one, but each URL is slightly different and goes to the same dashboard with different filters in place. So that public URL is very handy. We are seeing people get a lot of use out of it. We have any more questions right now, Gail, before I jump over to the widget creator?
Yes, we have 2 more questions here. This one is from Brian. Is adding utilization on the roadmap?
Yes, actually, it is. That's very timely. It is actually being pushed to the catalog for everyone to have tomorrow. So you should have it in there tomorrow.
Okay, next question is from Matt. Is there any reason our on-prem CS4 looks so different than yours? Should on-prem have the same functionality as hosted?
The web-based CSP that we're looking at is an entirely new platform. So there are going to be a lot of differences between the two. The data will primarily be the same, right? The same KPIs, the same metrics, but the actual functionality of the dashboards and just all of that, that is quite a bit different. So the CS4 stuff, when we talk about the metrics or the data or the best practices, a lot of that will translate to both. But a lot of this specific functionality of CSP, you're not going to find that in CS4. But if there's something holding you back from switching over to CSP, definitely give us a shout and talk to us, see what's holding you up. Because we definitely do encourage most folks to go ahead and come on over. So unless you've got a really good reason to stay out of it, you might really be kind of happy if you come on over. But we do have an on-prem appliance as well, so you can get the same functionality on-prem. But that's really going to be more of a conversation for you and your sales rep, your account rep, to kind of figure out what your best option might be. But we do have that option too. So if it's a concern about having your data in the cloud, that you can get around that with the on-prem appliance. But without CSP, this functionality is not going to be present in your CS4 instance. Okay. So we don't have any more questions right now. So I'm going to go ahead and bounce back out to our widget creator. So this is all inside of our dashboard in the viewer and the dashboard browser. But behind the scenes, those widgets, oh, actually, I'm sorry, I skipped one thing. Right. All right. So got a nice example here. If I switch this back to implementations, you saw how I had no survey data. So I get a null down here. Okay, so that's not very useful. I don't really need that information on this dashboard, but otherwise, I'm pretty happy with it. These things are useful to me, except I don't care about these and I don't care about these because SLAs don't apply on a lot of these. The way that they're set up, that particular board, it's project stuff, and the survey score also kind of irrelevant because there are no surveys set on that board. So I can actually swap out my widgets. That's what I wanted to show you. So this add widget feature here is where I would go ahead and I would say, well, this is not very useful to me, and I'm going to delete. So if I just select them, I'll delete them. And I'm going to rearrange this guy a little bit just to make it more useful for my implementations board. So my average hours waiting and my average hours entered. Now I've got a nice little square here. Let's find another chart. Okay, so activities don't really fit in here very well, but let's keep getting caught on the screen viewer thing. There we go. That's one we've got on the dash already. Let's find a good chart. That'll do. Of course, service type's not going to be the most exciting metric on a board that's strictly for implementations, but there we go. So that is how I would go ahead and swap out a widget. So anytime you're going to add or replace a widget, just come up to the Add Widget menu and you can search. So if I was looking for tickets, or similarly with the personal productivity widgets, those all say My, and that's an easy way to track those down. Okay. So I'm going to come back out here. I'm going to bounce out of that dashboard and go over to the Widget Creator. Just a couple more things to show you. I'm going to go ahead and start with an existing one. Open tickets count. This is my standard one. Okay. All this, like I said before, is going to stay the same. Everything under this design tab, what we covered in the dashboard viewer, you'll see translated. I mean, it's exactly the same. Now, one thing to keep in mind, though, if you make your changes here in the widget, all new widgets that you deploy to that dashboard or any dashboard are going to have those changes in them. Whereas if you make your changes at the dashboard level, you're only changing the widget on that dashboard. So when I made changes to the font size, all those things, none of that translates back to this widget here. This is my standard sort of template widget. It lives in the catalog. It's available all the time for me to reuse. But when I modify things at the dashboard level, then I can customize it, make it look exactly how I like without worrying about messing up the widget for everybody else who might use it. So here is kind of the nitty-gritty behind the scenes of a widget. Sorry, I keep clicking on it and popping the drill down. But this is where it references the query that it's looking for. So all those data queries that are basically just pulling in data out of your database are right here, and open tickets count happens to be the one that this is looking for. So it's actually counting 408 total. But if I go to, let's say, open orphan tickets, there we go. So that is that simple to switch. Now, I wouldn't recommend that you come in and start just pointing to different data queries in existing widgets, but it's the same concept when you create a new one, or if you clone this one and you like everything about it, but you just want to do, you're happy with your titles, you can clone it and then just switch to your other data query if that's going to work for you. Similarly, if we provide you with a custom query, you could always use one of your existings and point to it, but that's there. Now, this value column comes in handy if you're using a query that's returning multiple things. So if you happen to be returning something like, let's see. Okay, so this query that's open ops past due, it's running this query against the database, and it's returning multiple columns. So I have 48 open ops, total op revenue, the sum of the GM, average op revenue, average op gross margin. That's where I get to reuse it, and I can point to different columns. And I'm just going to actually show you with an example of ops. Let me just find one of these guys. Average GM. Of course, I've since forgotten what column I'm looking for. So let's do some op revenue. So this is the average op gross margin for opportunities that are set to close this month, but we can instead take a look at the total sum of GM. Simply by doing that. So that'll come in handy if you guys are writing your own queries, or you want to play around with custom queries that we've given you, or you want to create new widgets from existing data queries that we've provided to you. When you leave it blank, it's just going to use the first one that it sees. And most of the counts and things are just returning a simple single value. So there's no need to worry about what column it's pointed to. So it's only got 408 to close or to point to. So you'll see in that case, the open tickets will just always grab that one. Ta-da. Now I'm going to get out of here, and I am not going to save anything because I just made a big mess of that, pointed to all kinds of queries. But let me go ahead and go to open tickets count again, because I want to show you that drill down, and that drill down is this, the list that keeps popping up here. This is my list of all my open tickets. It's going to go ahead and give me all 408 tickets. That happens because I told it that my drill down widget is my table of open tickets. I could point that to another widget if I were so inclined, like for example, some empty HTML widget. Nothing at all in there, not very exciting. That wasn't a very good example. Let's find one that actually has something in it. And it does not have to be a table. Those of you who were familiar with CS4, most of the drill downs were tables, but you can actually point to pretty much anything you want. So, okay. Of course, it is trying to inherit the location. Obviously, if you're pointing to a bunch of unrelated items, that's not going to be terribly useful. There we go. All right, so the open tickets with no time. So you just want to keep in mind that these should typically be related. So if you see a discrepancy between what's on the face of your widget and what's in the drill down, this is where you're going to want to take a look to make sure. So in this case, this is open tickets count, so I would expect my drill down to be something very similar, open tickets drill down. And let's see, so those filters all just inherit from the parent. If you wanted to change them, you can. There's not a lot of reason for folks to do that, but if, for example, you wanted to remove some of the filters that were coming from that parent, you could go ahead and do that here. Now, let's say that I've got open tickets by status, or let's actually do the open tickets by priority that I have as a pie chart here. So this one's a pie chart. Now, I can switch from a pie to a donut, but I can't switch from a pie chart to a bar chart. So if I want to have a tickets by priority in a bar chart instead of this pie chart that we've got here, I want it to look more like this guy. I can come in here and I can see this is just looking at open tickets by priority chart. It's got a drill down associated with it. So just make note of those. Go ahead and make a new one. Priority chart. So right now, I've just created an empty chart. It's not looking at anything, but I know that I want to point it to open tickets by priority. And there we go. Out of the box, these are not going to work unless you go ahead and tell it to look at something, and that's fine. It's not a big deal. We'll go take a look at that. I'm just going to go ahead and open up the existing one. The easiest way is to copy an example, because this is going to tell us which columns or headings we care about. All right, so this one's looking for value and priority. those in here. This is just telling it, give me whatever numbers show up under value and group them by priority. That's the label that we're going to put underneath. So must be prioritized and so on. This corresponds to the count for each one. I can set my refresh rate. I can add a legend, remove my legend. I can change the alignment of my legend. I can put it at the bottom. Change what it does when I hover on things. Highlight series endpoints. So what that's going to do is that when I hover over here, nothing happens. If I tell it to go ahead and highlight the series, when I hover on this piece, it's going to highlight the associate. I'm sorry, it's going to highlight the whole thing, and this one will do all the rest. So you'll see them all pop up. All right, so give our chart a title by priority. And just like before, you've got your options for flipping through different types of charts. That's not a very good chart for this one, not a very good visualization for this particular data. But you've got your options. Let's just do something different. And again, we have no drill down here, so I'm actually going to go ahead and grab that. We know we're looking for open tickets by priority drill down. And okay. So with our charts, I have gone ahead and selected that. That's why I should switch it back to a regular bar chart so it's easier to grab what I need. Now you see how this is going just to emergency tickets? I did not click on emergency tickets. I clicked on critical. So why do I have emergency? Okay, I have emergency tickets because my widget is coming out of the box with a filter left in place. And sometimes that's because of testing. Our chart drill downs have to have a filter, or at least before did have to have a filter in place. But I can easily change that. And what I'm actually going to do, and this is great, and this is something to take note of if you're working with charts, is I'm going to inherit. But you notice these are all normal parameters that are part of the widget itself, the parent widget. Selected value, that is going to always come into play in charts when you want to drill down only to what you've selected. So instead of telling it always give me, whatever value I've entered here, I'm telling it use all the normal filters, and then where my priority is what I actually clicked when I interacted with the chart. So let me make sure I hit apply. And now I should have 12 priority 2 critical tickets. Ta-da! And if you don't want to do that and you just want to see all the tickets that are encompassed within the chart, you'd simply switch it back to just inherit the normal settings from the widget. And then I'm going to get a count of all my open tickets that are displayed on this chart, regardless of priority. Maybe. Do I not have something set here? Try that again. How are we doing that? Here we go. All right, well, I will look into that. That should be giving me a list of all of my open tickets. Typically, I'm going to have them filtered down to the selected value anyway. It was really more of for demo purposes, but it should be honoring that, so we'll get that squared away right away, either way. And here we go. So I'm going to actually change this back to a normal bar so it's a little less weird trying to click stuff. There we go. Just a couple other features we've included here in our drill downs. You've got a link out to your ConnectWise ticket in the case of a ConnectWise ticket. So it's going to actually go ahead and open up my instance of ConnectWise and take me directly to that ticket. I'm not going to go log in and take you there right now, but that will allow you to go in and work the tickets that are showing up here. If you'd like to download the list that you're looking at, you can actually go ahead and download to CSV. Oh, sorry. You can also download just the selected rows if you were to grab them like this. I can either say, give me all of them, or I can say just the selected. And there's my CSV. It's going to have my couple of tickets in there. Ta-da! And can also grab the whole thing. All right, so now I've gone and exported this to CSV, but what if I want to share it with Gail? I want to say, hey, Gail, what's up with these tickets here? We don't have to download or pull it out to a CSV and then put it into an email and send it. We can actually just do it this way. And even down to those specific rows. So if you've got a list of, say, neglected tickets or tickets that are sitting idle, grab the ones that matter, go ahead and send away. Enter the body of the message, and off it goes. Gail should soon get an email from me that will have those tickets inside of it. And here we go. So we've got this available column chooser. If you had a table that was displayed at all times, this would come in a little more handy. It's not that useful with a drill down if you're not keeping it open all the time. But it is nice to be able to kind of get stuff rearranged out of your way. So if you've got one that's always on, at least lets you kind of manipulate it so that you can on the fly clean up what you're working with here, or drag one back. Same thing. Similarly, if I want to see things by service board, I can go ahead and drag that column, the service board column, grab it, drag it up to the top where it says drag here to group by, and I immediately get a grouping by service board. Same thing with company and so on. So you can actually do multiple groupings. I mean, obviously it's going to get a little crazy if you're collapsing everything in on each other, but we do make some of these options available for you to do some of that manipulation here inside of the table. So you can take it out to Excel, but some of the stuff you can actually go ahead and do right in here. So let's see. Let's say I wanted to, here we go. Can use our filters. Okay. Come back. Yep. Where are we at? Sorry, I accidentally hit F5. Forget which one we were looking at just now. There we go. And I didn't save my changes since I modified my chart type, so oops, go back to a bar. Okay. All right. So you've got your ability to select, you can export, you can group, we count your records here. Depending on the widget, some of them will have an average, a sum, other info. So if you're doing invoicing, it might sum up or give you an average of what's going on with the data that's being displayed. So if you see any of those where you'd like to see a little bit more details or more info or something would be useful, definitely let us know. We are constantly adding to these. Gail, do we have any questions now?
Yes, we do. We have one from Chris. Is it possible to password protect a public URL that is shared?
No, not at this time. They will be building in some security features so that you will have really, really granular control over who can access what in terms of your logged in users. So the best way to tackle that would be to give them a login and then just lock them down to what it is that you want them to be able to see. The public URL is exactly that, unfortunately. But that's actually, that was requested explicitly by a number of our clients who had the use case for it. They don't want to have to log in. They want to be able to set it up on a public display and not worry about passwords or rebooting, or not rebooting, but getting logged out or timing out overnight. So there's different use cases for different scenarios, and we're going to try to get the other version in here as well, so that you will have that level with the password protection and an actual named user who's controlled through the security inside of CSP.
Okay, would you please review again where this recorded webinar will be located?
Indeed. So if you go to our doc site, which is at docs.connectsmart.com, and if you're ever on any of my webinars, I've probably repeated this so many times you're sick of me hearing it, but it's at docs.connectsmart.com. And always, well, first you can get there right from the homepage with the upcoming events and webinars, and that's going to take you into this section. But you can also get there from the side. Yours will not be quite as cluttered up as mine. I'm logged in right now. And the training and video, training and webinar video archive. If you go here, you can actually get to the list that's filtered, and you can dig through, or you can just expand it and browse through what's available. These do have the air dates most of the time, and they take you out to YouTube, but the reason I recommend you actually start here instead of just going to the YouTube channel, because yes, there is the Connect. Let's not listen to the video right now. But yes, you can see all our videos here, and that's a place to start. But the reason you want to hang out in the docs is, this is very long build up here. All right. Let's see. We have, was it dashboards? So just like this one, we actually are going to go ahead and link out to those specific points that we cover in the video. So instead of just watching an hour-long webinar or 45-minute long webinar, you can actually get to specifically the things that you're trying to do. Some of them are definitely worth watching in their entirety. But if you're looking for something specific, definitely hit up the doc site, search, and hopefully there will be a direct link right to where we're demoing it for you. Some of the others that I will show you, I think it's the HTML. We do a lot of additional content, so referencing. Here we go. Yeah, so this is actually from a webinar we did a couple weeks ago, the HTML webinar. It gives us the, it's showing you what we used in the webinar, gets you some more info. Here's the code, the HTML text that we use in the widgets that we used in the examples in the webinar. So you're welcome to start at YouTube or in the doc site, but the doc site's going to have a lot more related information, reference materials, additional samples, things like that. All right, well, unless anybody has any more questions, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up and let you fine folks get on with your evening. Well, folks on the East Coast, I'm sure the rest of you who are in other time zones have probably some more work to do today. But if you've got any questions, go ahead and yell them out now, or I will go ahead and wrap up, and you can feel free to reach out to support with any questions you think of as soon as we log off. Pretty quiet, Gail? Okay, all right. Well, thank you guys so very, very much. And we do have the weekly webinars, so I hope to see you guys next week. And if next week's not good for you or doesn't appeal to you, we do have a ton of others that are already up here ready to go. So feel free to register. Actually, these all say March 24th. They are not. They actually are these days. I'll get the text in there updated. But we do have them booked out for the next few weeks. So you've got lots of learning materials coming up. All right, everybody. You guys have a great one, and hope to see you next week. Bye-bye.